The moment I heard my family vote to send my 8-year-old to eat alone in a freezing garage on Christmas Eve, something inside me cracked. I'm Lauren, 32, and I never thought the people who raised me would decide my daughter didn't deserve Christmas. What happened that night still haunts me. The argument, the vote, the door closing behind her. And the worst part? My little girl thought she earned it. If you were in my place, what would you have done? Tell me your thoughts, because I still replay that moment every single day. I should have known something was off the second my boots hit my parents' porch. The house looked like a Christmas card. Icicle lights, a perfect wreath, warm windows glowing against the Minnesota snow. But the welcome felt colder than the wind at my back. I used to think Christmas fixed things. I didn't know it was about to break something open instead. Mia stood so close our coats brushed. She's 8, but with my family she always makes herself smaller, like she's trying to fit into my shadow. Her gloved hand squeezed mine, quick and tight. "Ready?" I asked. She nodded, eyes on the door. Mom opened it with a bright, practiced smile. "There you are," she said. Then her gaze dropped straight to Mia's sleeves, where the knit cuffs were damp and chewed. "She's still doing that?" Mom's smile didn't move. "Lauren, you really need to break that habit. It makes her look nervous." First hit of the night, clean and fast. Mia immediately hid her hands behind her back. She didn't speak. Her shoulders folded in on themselves. Mom had already turned away. Inside, it was textbook Christmas. Honey-baked ham in the oven, balsam and cedar candle burning, Bing Crosby crooning from a Bluetooth speaker. The tree was picture perfect. Presents stacked like props. Caleb and Sophie tore around the living room in matching pajamas, loud and untouchable. "Finally," Tessa called from the kitchen, wine glass in hand. "How many shifts are you working? You look wiped." "Nice to see you too," I said lightly, setting my caribou cup on the counter. She shrugged. "Just saying. Kids pick up on chaos. That might explain some of this." Her eyes flicked toward Mia, then away. Mom asked for help setting the table. Before I could stop her, Mia jumped in. "I can help," she said, eager. "That's sweet, honey," Mom replied. "Just be careful. We've worked hard to make things nice." The warning hung there. Mia took 2 plates and a mug of peppermint cocoa someone had left too close to the edge. She walked so carefully, her whole body went stiff. She almost made it. Then an elbow brushed the mug. The cocoa tipped. A small splash hit the tablecloth. It wasn't a disaster, just a splash. But the room went quiet for a beat. Tessa's sigh snapped the air. "See? This is what I'm talking about," she said. "She's always on edge. She needs structure, Lore, not everyone tiptoeing around her." Mom frowned at the stain like it was a personal insult. "We just set this table," she murmured. "It's like you run on nerves, Mia." "I'm sorry," Mia whispered, face flushing. "I didn't mean—" I was already there with a towel. "Hey, it's okay," I said, keeping my voice calm. "It's just Coco. Nobody died." Her eyes met mine for a second, already full of quiet shame. Behind us, Tessa snorted. "That's your problem," she said. "Nothing is ever a big deal with you." I bit back the first response that came to mind. Not tonight. Not yet. Dinner was exactly the kind of performance I remembered from childhood. Adults at the main table, kids at the smaller one, except Mia, who'd been squeezed between me and Mom, so we can keep an eye on her. The old rule still stood. Kids don't speak unless spoken to. No interrupting, no talking over adults, no fidgeting, no noise. The house was warm, but the room felt tight, like everyone was holding their breath. Mia's leg bounced under the table. I saw it from the corner of my eye. Mom's lips thinned. "Feet still, please," Mom said quietly. "You're shaking the table." Mia planted both feet flat, fingers gripping the edge of her chair. Conversation flowed over her head. Property taxes, sports, holiday sales, Mom's brunch menu. Every time I tried to draw Mia in, Mom or Tessa neatly cut across, like I'd broken some invisible rule. At one point, Mia inhaled like she was working up the courage to speak. "Excuse me," she whispered. Tessa dropped her fork with a clatter. "There it is," she said. "She literally cannot read a room." Caleb giggled. Sophie stared at her plate. Mom dabbed her mouth, looking straight at her. "Mia, sweetheart, when grown-ups are talking, you listen. You don't jump in every time you have a thought. Not everything is about you." The words weren't loud, but they were sharp. Mia shrank. Her hand slid off the table into her lap. "Mom," I said quietly. She barely said anything. Mom's gaze flicked to me, cool and quick. "And this is why she thinks the rules don't apply," she replied. "You rush to rescue her from everything. At some point, she has to learn how to behave in public. It's Christmas Eve. If she can't manage herself tonight—" She took a sip of wine, almost casual. "Maybe she doesn't deserve Christmas tomorrow." The sentence landed like a punch. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. Dad looked down. No one else said a word, but the silence around her comment said plenty. I glanced at Mia. Her eyes were wide, then suddenly blank, the way kids' eyes go when something cuts too deep. Her lip trembled once before she bit it hard. "Mom," I said, my voice tighter than I wanted. "That's not okay." "I'm not joking," she said. "Actions have consequences. We weren't strict enough with you, and look how that turned out. I won't make the same mistake with her." Under the table, I felt a tug on my sleeve. "Mom?" Mia's voice barely made it past her throat. Did I already mess it up? And sitting there at a table full of food and family and twinkling lights, I realized I was more afraid of the answer than of the snow waiting outside. It started with something so small I almost laughed at how fast it turned ugly. The kitchen was buzzing. Pots clanging, timers going off, kids running through like it was a racetrack instead of a house. The windows rattled every so often when the wind hit them just right, snow hissing against the glass. The whole place smelled like ham, green bean casserole, and cinnamon rolls Mom just threw together, which really meant she'd been planning them since October. Caleb and Sophie had been told to look with their eyes, not their hands, which meant, of course, they were touching everything. That's when I saw it, the fragile glass ornament near the bottom of the tree, the one Mom kept low because it photographed well. Caleb's hand closed around it. Mia got there first. "Careful," she said, fingers wrapping over his. "Nana said it can break." Her voice wasn't bossy. It was scared. "Give it!" Caleb shrieked, yanking his hand back. The ornament wobbled dangerously between them. "Mia, give it to him!" Tessa snapped from the doorway. She didn't even look up from her phone. "He's younger. Don't be difficult." Mia's eyes darted to me, then to the ornament. "He throws things when he gets excited," she whispered. "If it breaks, Nana will be mad." Caleb let out a full-body scream, the kind designed to summon adults. In seconds they appeared, Mom from the kitchen, Tessa fully tuned in now, Dad hovering behind them. The adults clustered around like referees circling a foul. "What is going on?" Mom demanded. Caleb pointed at Mia, tears already forming. "She won't share! She grabbed it!" Mia's chin trembled, but she didn't let go. "I was just holding it so it wouldn't fall," she said. "He pulled it." "Oh, for heaven's sake," Tessa cut in. "Mia, give him the ornament. He isn't made of glass. If it breaks, it breaks. Stop making drama out of everything." I stepped forward. "It's fragile. Maybe they can pick a different—" "Lauren," Mom said sharply. "You're not helping." Her eyes moved from me to Mia, scanning her the way doctors scan charts. "You're wound so tight, sweetheart. This is Christmas, not an exam. Let your cousin play." Mia swallowed. I could see the battle in her face. Obey the adults or protect the thing she'd been told was precious. Her fingers loosened around the ornament. Caleb grabbed it and ran. The ornament didn't break, not then, but something else did. Mia's eyes glistened. Her lower lip shook, then flattened. She shoved her sleeves over her hands again, like maybe if she made herself small enough, nothing else would go wrong. The noise level climbed back up. Music, oven timers, Tessa laughing too loudly at something on her phone. But the tension in the room shifted. It was no longer background static. It was a low hum, waiting for something to latch onto. "Mia's been on edge all night," Tessa muttered as she passed Mom a casserole dish. "You see? This is what I mean. She needs structure, clear consequences. Not everything can be, 'It's okay, sweetheart.'" Mom let out that sigh, her disappointed one. "Children these days," she said. "They have everything and still melt down over ornaments." I felt heat creep up my neck. "She's not melting down," I said. "She was trying to protect your stuff." "Lauren, you always have a reason," Mom replied, her tone cool. "You've been in crisis mode so long at that hospital, you treat normal parenting like abuse." That word hung in the air, heavy and unfair. Before I could respond, Caleb shrieked again from the living room. "Maye took it back!" We rushed in. Mia stood beside the tree, hands clenched at her sides, eyes wide. The ornament sat safely back on the lower branch. "I just put it back," she said quickly. "He was throwing it in the air." Caleb stomped his foot. "She's mean." Tessa was on him in an instant, pulling him against her side, glaring at Mia over his shoulder. "Mia, what did we just say? You don't snatch. You don't control what other kids do. You are not the parent here." Mia flinched like she'd been slapped with words. "She was trying to keep it from breaking," I said, which last I checked was the rule. Mom pinched the bridge of her nose. "Enough," she said. "This is ridiculous. She's worked up. She needs to calm down. Somewhere private." "I'll take her upstairs," I offered immediately. 5 minutes, deep breaths, will be fine." Tessa scoffed. "Upstairs? So she can sulk on her phone? She needs consequences, Lore, not a spa break. There are other kids here. This is ruining the vibe." "She doesn't even have a phone," I snapped. Mom's voice cut clean through us. "Stop," she said. "Arguing in front of the children is worse than any of this." She looked at Mia, then at the rest of us. Something calculating flickered across her face. "We're going to handle this," she announced, calmly, like adults. Her gaze swept the group. "We'll take a quick vote. 5 minutes in the garage. It's quiet, there's a chair, she can breathe and think. A little cold never hurt anyone." That sentence pinged somewhere in my chest, landing wrong. A little cold. Mia's eyes went huge. "The garage?" she whispered. "It's not a punishment," Mom said quickly. "It's a reset. You'll be fine. You're not made of sugar." I stepped closer. "No," I said. "If she needs space, I'll sit with her in my car or take her upstairs. She's 8, Mom. It's below freezing." Tessa crossed her arms. "Here we go," she muttered. Lauren swoops in to rescue, as usual. And where has that gotten you? A kid who thinks she can override every adult in the room. "She's not overriding anyone," I shot back. "She's scared." Mom straightened, that old steel sliding into her spine. "We are not making a federal case out of 5 minutes, Lauren. We're all exhausted. And frankly, we tiptoe around her moods too much. It's not healthy." She raised her hand. "All in favor of a 5-minute quiet break in the garage so she can calm down?" Tessa's hand flew up. "Absolutely." Dad hesitated, then, under Mom's look, his hand drifted up too. Sophie copied him, not really knowing why. I kept mine at my side. Everyone turned to look at me, the one holdout. The pressure was almost physical. "Lauren," Mom said, "we're trying to help her. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Mia's gaze bounced between us. Her eyes were shiny, but no tears fell. Not yet. "I'll go," she said suddenly, voice thin. "I can be good." The words sliced through me. Not "I didn't do anything wrong," not "please don't make me," just "I'll go." I knelt down so we were eye to eye. "You don't have to." "It's okay," she whispered. "I don't want everyone mad." That broke something in me I knew I wouldn't be able to glue back together. We walked her to the garage. The shift in air hit immediately. A drop in temperature. The faint smell of cold concrete, metal, and old cardboard. A single dim yellow bulb flickered on when Mom flipped the switch. A folding chair sat in the middle of the space, next to a small plate of sweet potatoes on a TV tray. "See?" Mom said briskly. "She won't miss dinner. It's just a few minutes to cool off." Mia sat down without being told, pulling her sleeves over her fingers until only her knuckles showed. Her feet didn't quite reach the floor. They hovered above the concrete, toes pointing slightly inward. I stood there, my whole body screaming to scoop her back up and walk straight out the front door. But behind me, I could feel them watching, measuring, judging. 5 minutes, Mom repeated. "That's all." "This feels wrong," I said under my breath. Mom's jaw tightened. "What's wrong is letting a child think there are no consequences," she replied. "Trust the process, Lauren. Trust the process." The same phrase they use in hospitals while families sit in waiting rooms and pray. The door shut with a soft but final click. Warmth pressed against my back from the house. The garage air nipped at my cheeks, my fingers, my doubt. From inside, I heard the music swell again. Laughter rose, chairs scraped, plates clinked. The party restarted as if a child hadn't just been sat in a cold room alone on Christmas Eve. Mia was quiet behind the door. Too quiet. I stood there a second longer, hand on the knob torn cleanly in half. As I stepped back, I heard it. Her voice, small and muffled through the crack. "Mom, will you come back?" The words lodged like ice in my throat. "Yes," I whispered to no one, to her, to myself. I will. I just didn't know yet that when I finally did, nothing about this family would be the same. 5 minutes turned into 8 before I even realized I was counting. I stood at the edge of the kitchen, pretending to rinse a dish that was already clean, eyes drifting to the microwave clock. 5 minutes? 7? 8. Laughter drifted in from the dining room, mixing with the clink of silverware and the faint hum of the heater fighting the Minnesota cold. I could picture the garage. A single yellow bulb, cold concrete, a folding chair too big for my 8-year-old. My chest tightened. It wasn't just a room to me. It was every time I'd ever been told to cool off alone while the adults went back to their fun. "She's fine," Mom said behind me as she slid a pan into the oven. "If you run to her every time she pouts, she'll never learn to calm herself." "She's not pouting," I said. "She's freezing, and she's alone." Mom wiped her hands on a dish towel. "The garage isn't that cold. A little cold never hurt anyone. You of all people should know kids are resilient." "Not like this," I wanted to say. "Not like this." The clock blinked again. 12 minutes. Every part of me screamed to go. Old habits pushed back. Don't make a scene. Don't be dramatic. Don't be the problem. I stood there, trapped between my training as a daughter and my instinct as a mother. "Lauren," Mom's tone sharpened. "Stop pacing. You're turning this into a thing. She needs space. You coddle her too much." I set the towel down. Space doesn't mean a concrete room in December. She stared at me for a beat, then turned away, ending the conversation without saying another word. That was an answer, too. 17 minutes. That number snapped something inside me. I walked down to the hallway, heart pounding in my ears. The door to the garage stuck, as usual, before it jerked open with a squeak. The chair sat in the middle of the floor. The little plate of sweet potatoes rested on the tray beside it, untouched. "Mia?" My voice echoed off the walls. No answer. The air felt wrong, too still. Then I saw the side door, cracked open an inch. A thin ribbon of cold crept in along the floor. A smear of wet boot print led toward it, half melted and accusing. I crossed the concrete in 3 quick strides and shoved it open. Outside, the snow was thicker, the sky already sliding toward dark. Wind bit at my cheeks, my sock-covered feet screaming against the freezing steps. I scanned the yard, heart racing. "MIA!" I called. For one horrible second, I saw nothing but white and shadow. Then a small movement near the back porch caught my eye. She was standing there, coat zipped but sleeves soaked, boots half buried in uneven footprints. Her shoulders were hunched, head bowed, as if she was waiting for a verdict. When she saw me, she didn't run. She just whispered, "I didn't want you to get in trouble because of me." My stomach dropped. "Oh, baby," I breathed, hurrying through the snow. I wrapped my arms and coat around her, pulling her against me. Her fingers were icy where they clutched my sweater. "You never have to stand out here alone to make anyone happy. Not ever. Do you hear me?" She nodded against my chest, but I could feel how rigid she was, the way kids get when they're holding themselves together by sheer will. For a second, I hated every time I'd ever told her to be brave, without realizing how hard she was already trying. I carried her back inside. The warmth of the house hit us hard, almost suffocating after the bite of the wind. Her boots dripped onto the hardwood, leaving little puddles behind us like proof. Conversation froze the second we stepped into the living room. Plates in midair, forks halfway to mouths, Mom at the head of the table, napkin in hand, Tessa with her wine glass, Dad staring. "She was outside," I said, voice shaking. "Alone in the snow." Silence. Mom frowned first. "Lauren, the garage door was closed. If she wandered out, that's on her. You're blowing this out of proportion." "She went out because she thought that's what you wanted," I shot back. "Because you taught her that being cold is how you fix bad behavior." Tessa shrugged, defensive. "Kids do weird things. You can't pin every choice she makes on us. You always need a villain." Something in me went quiet then. Not calm, not numb, just done. It was the kind of quiet that comes right before a bridge gives way. Mia's arms tightened around my neck. Her breath was warm now, but she still trembled. "Mom," she whispered, barely audible, "can we go home?" The answer, for once, was simple. "Yes," I said, "we're going home." I didn't wait for permission or approval. I turned, grabbed our coats, and walked us out into the snow. Behind us, the house glowed with Christmas lights and the muffled sounds of a holiday continuing without us. Ahead of us was a car, a small apartment, and a future I hadn't planned for. But at least in that future, my daughter would never have to wonder if she belonged inside. That night, the cold stopped being weather and became a line I knew I would never let anyone cross again. 3 days after Christmas, I opened my mailbox and felt my lungs forget how to work. Bills, coupons, a glossy catalog, and in the middle, a thick beige envelope with a state logo and block letters, Child Protective Services. For a second, the world shrank to the feel of cold metal under my fingers. I carried it upstairs like it might shatter if I held it wrong. The apartment was quiet in that winter break way. Morning light pushed through frosted windows. The heater rumbled. The fridge hummed. On the living room floor, Mia sat cross-legged in her pajamas, lining up her stuffed animals in a perfect row, whispering to them like she was checking they were all still there. "Mom, look," she said. "They're having a sleepover." "Yeah," I answered, voice thin. "Looks cozy." My hands were not cozy. They were shaking. I set my coffee on the counter, slid a finger under the flap, and tore the envelope open. Report of possible neglect. Child found outside in unsafe winter conditions. The words hit harder than the cold. They blurred, then snapped back into focus, each one heavier than the last. My fingers went numb. The coffee smell turned sour. My heart pounded so loudly it drowned out everything else. I didn't remember sitting, but suddenly I was on the floor, back against the cabinet. "Mom?" Mia's voice floated over. "You look weird." I folded the letter just enough that she couldn't see the heading. "Just grown-up stuff," I said, forcing my face into something that wasn't panic. "You're fine. You didn't do anything wrong." She studied me like she didn't fully believe that, then turned back to her stuffed animals, pressing one a little closer to the others. The letter had a number at the bottom. My thumb hovered over my phone screen for half a breath, then I dialed before I could talk myself out of it. "Department of Human Services, this is Ms. Daniels," a calm voice said. "Hi, my name is Lauren Hart. I just got a report about my daughter being outside in the snow." There was a pause. I could hear typing. "Yes, I see it," she said. "Thank you for calling. First thing, take a breath. This is a follow-up, not a removal order." "I'm trying," I said, but my laugh came out brittle. "The report came from a neighbor," she continued. "They observed a young child alone outside in winter conditions at night and were concerned. A neighbor, not my family." Relief and shame collided in my chest. "Your relatives also submitted a statement afterward," she added. "They confirmed she had been placed in the garage to cool down and that you removed her and left shortly after." Of course. They hadn't called me. They'd called the state. "What happens now?" I asked. "We'll need to do a home visit and talk more in depth," she said. "My goal isn't to punish you, Ms. Hart. It's to understand whether this was an isolated incident or part of a pattern, and to make sure Mia is safe and supported." I stared at the countertop. "She is safe," I said quietly, "at least as long as she's with me." "I'd like to see that for myself," she replied, still kind, still professional. "Can we schedule something in the next day or two?" "Yes," I said. "Anytime." After we hung up, I sat there a moment longer, listening to the refrigerator hum and Mia whisper to her stuffed animals. Then I did something I wasn't sure was smart, but felt impossible not to do. I called my mother. She answered on the first ring. "Lauren, I got a letter from CPS," I said, skipping hello. "They said a neighbor reported seeing Mia outside alone. Then they said you and Tessa sent in statements," rustling on the other end. "We didn't want you blamed," she said quickly. "Caleb mentioned Mia was outside. Tessa panicked. Everything is so touchy now with the state, you hear stories. We thought if we explained, it would show we handled it. You didn't call to ask if she was okay first," I said. Silence. "You had time to talk to the government," I went on, "but not to your own daughter or your granddaughter." "That's not fair," she shot back. Then her voice faltered. "We were scared too. You grabbed her and stormed out. We didn't know what you'd tell people. We were trying to protect the family." "Which family?" I asked. "Because it sure wasn't mine you were thinking about." Her breath hitched, like she'd been slapped. "Lauren, I have to go," I cut in. "I need a lawyer." I hung up before she could say anything else. By the time I sat across from Mark Adler at Caribou Coffee, my hands had steadied just enough to wrap around a cup. The place smelled like espresso and toasted bagels. People typed, scrolled, lived completely normal lives, while mine felt like it had been picked up and shaken. Mark scanned the letter, then looked up. "Okay," he said. "Tell me everything. Don't soften it. Don't make it worse either. Just the truth." I told him the vote, the garage, the side door, the snow, the neighbor, leaving. He listened, pen tapping once against the table. Blueberry scone crumbs dotted his napkin like snowflakes. "This is scary," he said when I finished, "but it's not catastrophic." "It sure feels catastrophic," I said. "My family thinks I'm overdramatic. Now the state thinks I'm neglectful." "The state thinks a neighbor saw something concerning," he corrected gently. "CPS needs clarity, not conflict. We'll give them context. Your actions that night matter. You went to her, you left, you're cooperating now. That's all in your favor." My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. "Lauren Hart," I answered. "Ms. Hart, it's Ms. Daniels," the calm voice said. "I've reviewed the file. I'd like to schedule that home visit for tomorrow morning, if that works." "Tomorrow? So soon?" My stomach flipped. "Yes," I said. "We'll be home." "Good," she replied. "I prefer not to let parents sit in limbo. We'll talk, I'll meet Mia, and we'll move from there." After I hung up, I stared at the phone for a beat. "Well?" Mark asked. "She's coming tomorrow," I said, "to decide if I'm a decent mother. She's coming to see what I already see," he said. "A mother who made a hard call and then did the right thing. Let her see it." That night after dinner, Mia and I curled up on the couch. No TV, just the soft hiss of the heater and the faint city sounds outside. She tucked her feet under my leg like she was anchoring herself. "Mom?" she asked after a long stretch of quiet. "Yeah, baby?" Her fingers picked at a loose thread on the blanket. "Am I hard to love?" The question landed heavier than the envelope in the mailbox. I pulled her closer, kissed the top of her head. "No," I said, voice thick. "You are not hard to love. You are the easiest thing in my whole life." "Then why?" she whispered. "Does it feel like I always mess everything up?" I held her tighter and stared at the CPS letter on the counter. Somewhere between my parents' garage and my apartment couch, I realized the real battle wasn't just with the state or with my family. It was with the story my 8-year-old had started to believe about herself, and I was done letting anyone else write it for her. When Ms. Daniels stepped into my apartment with her notebook and soft eyes, I realized this wasn't an interrogation. It felt like an invitation to finally tell the truth without someone cutting me off or rolling their eyes. It was a quiet Tuesday morning. Snow was melting in gray ridges along the curb outside, and a weak winter sun pushed through the frosted windows. I had cleaned too much, then cleaned again. Vacuum lines on the rug, sink empty, mail stacked in a neat pile. The place still looked small and lived in, but it was the best version of itself. "Thank you for having me, Miss Hart," she said, slipping off her boots by the door. "Lauren is fine," I answered. She smiled, then glanced toward the couch. Mia sat there in leggings and an oversized sweatshirt, one foot tucked under her, clutching a small stuffed bear. "We're just going to talk," Ms. Daniels told her. "You can answer or not answer. You're allowed to say you don't know. There are no wrong feelings here." Mia nodded once, eyes fixed on the bear's ear. "We started with me. Tell me about that night," Ms. Daniels said, settling into the armchair. Her pen hovered over the page. "From before the argument to when you left." So I did. I told her about the ornament, the vote, the garage that everyone pretended was no big deal. I told her about watching the microwave clock while my family lectured me about consequences. I told her about opening the door to an empty chair and seeing the side door cracked, snow creeping in like another accusation. I told her how I found my daughter in the yard, shoes half buried, trying to be good enough not to cause trouble. Ms. Daniels' pen moved in short, quick strokes. She didn't interrupt. She just nodded occasionally, the way you do when the story is worse than the person telling it realizes. "How long was she in the garage before you went to get her?" she asked. 17 minutes, I answered. Saying it out loud still felt like confessing to a crime. "We said 5. I let it be 17. "What were you doing in that time?" she asked. "Arguing with myself," I said, trying not to blow up the only Christmas my parents will probably ever remember. Trying not to be the difficult one, listening to everyone tell me this was love. The heater clicked on with a low groan. Somewhere outside, a plow rumbled past. "Thank you," she said quietly. "That helps." She shifted her gaze to Mia. "Would it be okay if I asked you some questions now?" she asked. "You can look at me or not. You can talk or just listen." Mia's legs swung once, nervous. "Okay," she whispered. "What do you remember about the garage?" Ms. Daniels asked. "It was really cold," Mia said. "The chair was hard. I could hear them laughing inside. Grandma said if I sat there and thought, I'd calm down and stop being selfish." My hands curled into fists. "What were you thinking about?" Ms. Daniels asked gently. Mia swallowed. "The ornament," she said. "Nana said it was special. I didn't want it to break. When Caleb grabbed it, I thought I was helping, but everyone looked at me like I broke Christmas." My chest ached. "And then?" Ms. Daniels prompted. "Grandma always says kids need to go outside to think," Mia continued. "She says she did, and that's why she's strong. So I thought, maybe the garage wasn't enough. Maybe I had to go all the way outside to really listen." Her voice shrank. "I didn't want Mom to keep getting in trouble because of me." There it was, the sentence I couldn't stop hearing. "I thought if I was brave in the snow and didn't cry," she finished, "they'd like me more. Maybe then I'd deserve Christmas too." My vision blurred. I pulled her against me, feeling her small ribs move with every breath. Ms. Daniels closed her notebook. "Mia," she said, "going into the snow alone wasn't your job. Keeping adults from fighting is never a child's job." She turned to me. "From what I see," she said, "this is not neglect by you. This is a dangerous, outdated idea of discipline used by other adults that your daughter took onto herself. You recognized the harm and removed her. That matters." I exhaled like I'd been underwater. "So what happens now?" I asked. "I'll recommend no ongoing case," she said. "No services required. I may suggest therapy and boundaries with relatives, but from the state's perspective, your home is safe." She paused, then added, "Your case will be closed." The words landed like a warm blanket over a bruise. I nodded, tears finally spilling over, not from fear this time, but from something like relief and grief tangled together. After she left, the apartment felt strangely bigger. The shadows seemed softer. My phone buzzed on the counter. It was my mother. This time it wasn't a call, just a text. "I want to tell you something about my childhood. Please call me." I stared at the screen, thumb hovering, Mia's head heavy on my shoulder. The investigation had ended, but something else was clearly about to begin. Healing didn't arrive like forgiveness. It didn't show up in a single cinematic moment. It came in small motions. Quiet breakfasts where Mia finally ate without glancing at the door, long hugs where neither of us rushed, and the soft, unexpected sound of her laughing again. By early spring, the light in our apartment looked different, warmer somehow, like the walls knew we were trying. I kept her drawings taped across the fridge, bright houses, stick figures holding hands, little suns with too many rays. I added a vase of tulips to the table, a small promise to myself that life could bloom again even after winter had bitten so hard. For weeks, I avoided calling my mother. Then one morning, after Mia left a crayon rainbow on the counter for luck, I finally dialed. Evelyn answered on the first ring. "Lauren?" Her voice sounded smaller than I'd ever heard, stripped of authority and clipped expectations. "I got your message," I said. There was a long pause, then a trembling inhale. "When I was little," she began, "my father used to send me outside during storms if I misbehaved. No coat, no shoes sometimes. He said the cold made children obedient. I thought surviving it meant it worked." My grip tightened on the phone. She continued, breath shaking. "I thought making Mia strong would protect her. I didn't see that I was repeating what hurt me. I am so sorry." Something inside me softened, a small unfreezing, but it didn't erase what happened. "Mom," I said quietly, "Mia is not a lesson. She's a child." "I know," she whispered, and for the first time she sounded like someone realizing the truth too late. Later that day, a long text from Tessa appeared. I didn't think. I was overwhelmed. "I'm sorry for everything." Moments after, Dad sent a shorter message. "We should have handled it better. I should have spoken up." They were trying, but I finally understood something I hadn't let myself admit. Trying doesn't undo harm. Trying doesn't warm a garage. Trying doesn't change the look on my daughter's face when she asked if she ruined Christmas. So I opened the family group chat and typed slowly, deliberately, "We need space. No more punishments without my consent. No more comments about Mia's behavior in front of her. Reconnection will happen slowly, on my terms." My hands trembled, but not from fear. It wasn't revenge. It was protection. Something I should have done sooner. That evening, while I was reheating soup, Mia tugged at my sleeve. "Mom," she said, handing me a fresh drawing, "this one's for next Christmas." Two stick figures, me and her, stood beside a bright tree. A house glowed behind us with warm yellow windows. "Can we spend next Christmas at home?" she asked. "Just us? I want it to feel warm." I knelt, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Yes," I whispered, "and you will always belong inside. Always." She threw her arms around my neck, and for a moment the world felt stitched back together. Later that night, as I wiped down the table, my phone buzzed again. A final message from Evelyn appeared on the screen. "I'd like to learn, if you ever want me to." I didn't answer. Not out of anger, but because healing isn't a switch you flip back on. It's a slow, careful reopening of doors that were once slammed shut. And for the first time in months, I felt steady enough to choose which doors stayed open. Spring air drifted in through the cracked window, carrying something soft and new with it. Maybe hope. Maybe just the promise that next Christmas, the warmth would start with us and grow only where it was safe. When I look at Mia now, laughing freely, sleeping peacefully, drawing warm houses instead of cold garages, I'm reminded how healing often begins in the quietest places, not with grand apologies, but with the simple decision to protect what matters. If this journey taught me anything, it's that family isn't defined by old rules or holiday traditions. It's shaped by the courage to break harmful patterns and choose gentleness instead. In life, we all carry pieces of our past, some tender, some painful. And sometimes those pieces spill into the next generation without us noticing. But if we pause long enough to listen, to learn, and to choose kindness over pride, love finds its way back. Healing doesn't erase what happened, but it does give us a chance to write a different ending. If this story touched you, I'd love to know where you're listening from, and whether it reminded you of a moment in your own family. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters here. And if you'd like more real family drama stories with heart and meaning, feel free to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.